Hey everybody, Matt Barton here with this week's Broker Minute or Two. Hey, with the ever-changing market, we always see some new things crop up, and something that's not necessarily new but has recropped up is issues related to fractional ownership properties. And in a Broker Minute or Two, I cannot cover this in great detail, but I wanted to at least point out two things that you need to be aware of if you run across these. So the concept is, if there's a property that's, a lot of times these are higher end luxury properties that just an individual either can't afford or doesn't want to put all of their money into. Some companies go out and will fractionalize the ownership, divide it into 8 slices. Now, the question comes is, when we run across a client who has ownership in one of these fractionalized properties, how do we transfer ownership, right? And so there's really two, I know there's more, but predominantly there are two forms of ownership. One is tenants in common. And tenants in common, most of the title work we deal with is joint tenancy, right? Typically between a husband and wife or a partner or whatever the case may be, has automatic survivorship rights. Tenants in common, we start to see sometimes with families where they're kind of trying to divide up an asset. By its fundamental nature, tenants in common has undivided interest, but if there's further documentation, it can assign a percentage ownership to the individuals. The great news is anybody who is one of the owners of tenants in common is showing on title. So that's the easy solution, okay? And just like anything else, we can create a REPC that sells their ownership portion in that tenants in common property. So that one's pretty easy and straightforward. The one that we're seeing more of now is when a company will come in and find for instance, a luxury property, and they will set up an LLC, who is the owner, who is the legal owner on county records. So what happens when one of the 8 people that owns that property through the LLC wants to sell their property? Because remember, the legal owner is the LLC. So this is the one that we've had crop up. And of course, my first thing is going to be say, well, your client should double check with an attorney to make sure they've read through the articles of incorporation of the ownership LLC, work with your title company. But fundamentally, there's not a transfer of title per se. What it is there's a transfer of ownership in an LLC, which would in most cases be updating the articles of incorporation to show a new owner in the LLC who owns the property. So just something to be aware of as prices go up and as new models emerge and are emerging, that if you run across one of these fractionalized ownership, don't just assume you understand how it's going to go. Make sure you talk with your broker, reach out to me, and let's make sure we do it right. Hope you have a great week, and we'll talk with you soon.